On the premiere episode of The Real Paranormal Detectives, the team investigates the shape-shifting reptilian conspiracy. Are average people, celebrities, and even world leaders being hosted by fourth-dimensional beings? We meet a man who believes they are, and claims to have one of these entities attached to him, as we conduct our first ever interview investigation. Plus, what makes our guest want to get up and leave before we even start? We are the Southern California Paranormal Detectives. Our team has been investigating claims of the paranormal for over 10 years. In our time, we've seen some crazy things.
I think I saw something over there.
What did it look like?
It's pulsating too.
It is pulsating. Yeah.
We also have literally thousands of hours of absolutely nothing. Now we've combined the latest science and technology, along with the spiritual.
The one that we see over here, the energy is just off the charts.
We've investigated ghosts, UFOs, cryptozoology, and even conspiracies. We want to finally show and find the truth. Meet our team. Myself, founder and parapsychologist, Jean-Pierre. My best friend and co-founder, Adam. My brother and our medium, Marcello. My wife, our photographer and Native American consultant, Danielle. Our tech manager and skeptic, Eddie. And finally, our head researcher, Roxanne. Together, we are more than a team. We are family. And we are the real paranormal detectives.
Hey guys, it's Roxanne. I have all of our information for our case coming up on the reptilian shapeshifters. I did a lot of my research online and also with this book right here. It's kind of a different read. If you have a lot of time, check it out if you want more information on what I researched, because I pretty much condensed it down. But what I have for the history of the actual reptilian people themselves is that they came from the constellation Draco, which is a constellation that we still do use today. It's in the far northern sky. It's from back in the day. And so since they came from the constellation Draco, they often call themselves Alpha Draconis, or they also call themselves Unaki, and then we also know them as the reptilian shapeshifters. They came to Earth looking for something that they called the monatomic gold, and what this was something they used. They actually ingested it, and it helped increase their carrying capacity to their nervous system, which helped them process information a lot faster, and it also helps them actually shift their shapes. And they would use it, aside from actually eating it, to help them speed up the transdimensional transport. When they were here on Earth, they realized that they could use human emotions like aggression, fear, and guilt as actual energy. So that being said, they encouraged wars and anything that could get that rise out of the humans. And the best way to do that they figured out was through religion. So it's actually a really common belief that they founded the three major religions, Christianity, Judaism, and Islam, to cause those issues, to cause those wars that were gone on for so many years. They thrived on that. So it's interesting that could tie into wars from back in the day, that they wanted that bad energy around because it kept them going. They also decided that they could do human crossover breeding, and they started doing that for political aspects. And these are also called watchers and fallen angels, which are mentioned in the Bible, that bred with the female humans back in the biblical days. And this is when they started breeding in with us. And this went back, the first time they tried it was 300,000 years ago, and this could have actually included Adam from Adam and Eve, which would have been the beginning of man. And then they had a second program of breeding about 30,000 years ago, and then a third round of breeding about 7,000 years ago. Not only breeding with humans, though, they also bred with aliens. The aliens they chose to breed with, though, were called the Nordax, and these were blonde-haired and blue-eyed aliens, which then led to the Aryans that we know nowadays. And a lot of the Aryan traits that they have are also traits that the reptilians themselves had, which are desire for control, the cold-blooded attitude, ritualistic lifestyles, and then their obsession with fascism and racism is also shows in just like naturally that the Aryans have this is because they bred with the reptilian people back in the day. And then with that, how I mentioned there, they did 3 rounds of breeding with humans. This last round, the 7,000 years ago, is where the half-bloods come from, who they believe control the world today. And that's actually, there's 3 different types of the reptilian people. There's 3 different phases. They have the red dresses, that they call them, and those are the highest ranking of them. And these people, they're basically called software people. And with the software people, they have no conscience, nor do they have free will, and their human bodies are actually holograms. And some of the most powerful people in our world are what they consider these red dresses. Queen Elizabeth, George W. was considered one, and Tony Blair, which if you think about it, they all got along so well and everything they agreed with, and because they have no conscience, they're being powered by something else. The second level of people were called the Sheeple, and I think we've all heard that term before. And the Sheeple are also called the repeaters, and these are the vast majority of humans. And they're called the repeaters because these are the doctors. The doctors repeat what the pharmaceutical companies tell them to repeat, which repeats what the government tells them to say. Teachers repeat the knowledge that they're told to tell us, which also goes to journalists. Journalists, if you read any newspaper, they're all reporting the same thing. They're basically just repeating everything. And the third group is the smallest group, and they're the people who realize what's going on. And they're also deemed by the Sheeple and by the red dresses as crazy. So those are the 3 levels of the half-breeding that they've created over, 7,000 years ago. And also, they say if you come across one of these half-breeds, you could tell them apart from a non-bred person because they have a very intense stare, which is where they say the term the evil eye comes from. If someone's giving you an evil eye, it's that intense stare that the reptilians have that you're actually seeing. And actually, it's consuming human blood that causes them, that gives them the ability to be able to shift. It doesn't just naturally happen. Aside from also coming from another world, the reptilians come from another dimension. And they're in the lower level of the 4th dimension, which is the nearest to the physical world that we live in. And the universe itself consists of many dimensions, and according to this theory, and where we all share the same space, and this includes TV and radio waves. And now some people have the ability to tune into other wavelengths, and then this is where the psychics get their power and where they have the extra ability that the regular person doesn't, is because they could tune into everything around them more. The 4th dimension is also referred to as the lower astral dimension, which is where they say demons live. So if that's true, then in theory, when people try to contact demons, they're actually contacting the reptilians who haven't come to our world yet. So rather than having satanic cults worshiping Satan, they could actually be worshiping the reptile people without really knowing it, which is kind of interesting. Let's see. What I have as far as the earliest reported sighting of anything to do with the reptile people is from 1967 when a police officer by the name of Herbert Schirmer from Ashland, Nebraska, was abducted by a UFO and said that they were reptilian-like humanoids that abducted him. And then the earliest reference to the shapeshifters was from January 29th, 1934. And with that, it was a mining engineer named Warren Sheeple Using a radio X-ray, he discovered underground labyrinths beneath Los Angeles that actually contained pure pockets of gold, which wouldn't be too surprising because California was the gold state. He wanted to further figure out, though, why there were these underground labyrinths and tunnels. So he got into contact with the Hopi Indian chief by the name of Chief Greenleaf, who also went by a more Americanized name of Al Macklin. Greenleaf told him of the Hopi Indian legend of the lizard people. And according to their legend, they lived under the ground where modern-day Los Angeles is. And what happened was they left the surface because of conflicts that were going on over 5,000 years ago. I couldn't find what conflicts this was, but I mean, that could have been just intertribal issues. They didn't want to deal with it. Who knows what those might have been. But their history was kept on gold tablets, which, again, makes sense with the gold underground. And the fact that they came here looking for gold, we're finding that there's pockets of gold, and their history is kept on gold tablets. Sheeple found this interesting, so we got a team together, and he tried to dig up where his x-rays showed these pockets of gold were, but unfortunately he hit a water well, and when he did that, it caused flooding, and therefore they stopped digging to prevent any injury. And what I thought was interesting was that they're saying they kept their history on gold tablets, and then if you think about the Mormon religion, they said that Joseph Smith, I think his name was, read the religion from gold plates. So I did a little research into that, and then there are people who believe that the Mormon religion also ties into the reptilian.
It's investigation day, and tech manager Eddie arrives with the rest of the equipment so the team can begin setup for tonight's interview investigation. They will use everything at their disposal to try and capture any activity that may occur during the investigation. The sun begins to set in Orange County, California, as the team begins to prep for tonight's interview in this location.
So we're just going to set up 4 cameras, right?
Yep.
Right, so these are the cameras that we use for investigations. And we're going to set up four of these just to get a general area of it. These are night vision, so, but I don't think we're going to go dark. So, and this is our DVR system. We're all going to connect to this, and we can monitor, see if we catch anything while we're actually doing our interview with our person. So we start setting up.
Tripods are set up for the DVR cameras. Cables are run. The connections are made. And all safety precautions are taken.
Yeah, so what I'm going to do is right now, I'm going to take a quick sweep of the whole area with my EMF meters that detects the electromagnetic field. So if there's any abnormalities, too much high energy, we'll know those areas not to use our meters in because we'll get false readings. So we're trying to keep them in areas where there's not a lot of energy. So that's what I'm going to do right now. I think the main area I want to focus on is probably where we're doing our interview. So hopefully seems like it's pretty tame, which is a good sign. So hopefully if I'm reading with my K2 while we're interviewing, we won't get any false readings, or maybe we'll catch something if it actually happens. So yeah, everything seems pretty good. I'm not really getting any readings. Little 0.1, 0.2s around everywhere, but nothing major. So seems pretty good. Cool.
Well, my name is Michael Allen. I'm going to be witness of what's taking place tonight.
What's your interest in the paranormal?
I don't know, I think it's very interesting. I mean, I've seen it, of course, on TV and stuff, so I'd like to actually see it in person and see what part of it's Hollywood and what part of it's actually real.
Alright guys, so we just wanted to talk to you quick before we did this investigation tonight. Because we actually met with this guy beforehand just to get an idea of, you know, who he was and his background. And we literally sat and talked for hours with this guy who claims to have an attachment of a shape-shifting reptilian on him. I mean, he never faltered on his story. He seemed very genuine. I have a background in psychology as well as parapsychology, and I mean, the guy really knew his information. He studied and researched it and figured out what was going on with his life. So we were really impressed by that. So I think we're really in for a good investigation tonight. Hopefully we can get him some help and figure out what was going on.
Hey guys, so we were talking to this guy, and he sounds very genuine. He has all the information. He was talking about his stuff. He also brought up one of the Native American myths about shapeshifters, which is basically a skinwalker. So he sounds very genuine. Hopefully we can help him out and get this story out.
Well, okay, since Jean-Pierre and Eddie have spoken about it, I wanted to say that from my experience there, seeing that I picked up his energy and everything, his story was very genuine from what I was feeling too. I felt actually the negative energy that had been attached to him as well, that it was I got an image of it too. It was like a green, black figure, and I had felt from his life story that in the past 2 or 3 years, his life went in a bad place because of this attachment too, that he lost his job, and I feel like his whole life with that. But from now how he's grown, he's capable to move on from this, and I feel like we can actually help bring to light what he has learned and what he can show from it to everyone. And I feel like this is a very important message, and it's very important to help him show it and help other people grow from it too into a better place. So let's see what we can get tonight with helping him. Our guest arrives just as Eddie and Danielle leave to get some food and drinks for the set. We receive a message that they have been in a car accident. This delay caused our guest some apprehension, and I must convince him to stay. Luckily, I did.
So in particular, the subject of the shape-shifting reptilians.
Sure, the shape-shifting, my most beautiful date. I was at a party after a few years. I was working on a project, and I completed the project, and I was invited at one of my close friends' party. He was his 40th birthday, and he just graduated from school, and he was an internist, finally opened his own practice. And a lot of my close friends that we grew up with, all these guys are physicians, and you know, they were working in hospitals and just graduated, young people. But I was sitting at a pool, and I was talking to one of my friends, and this guy, we used to laugh so much together back in college. We used to laugh so much that our face used to get tired by the end of the day. But I've noticed that his demeanor was suppressed, and there was something going on with him, and his smiles never reached his eyes. You know, it's almost like he didn't really laugh, you know, that night. But I didn't want to press the issue. I didn't want to ask him what was wrong. We were there to have fun. But at the other side of the pool, there was 2 girls, and for about 15-20 seconds, I lost my friend. It's almost like telepathically. I mean, afterward, I found out that he was doing it, communicating with this girl. Okay, and after about 20 seconds, he turned and looked to me, and he said, let's go talk to these girls. They want us to go there. They want us to go there. I mean, this kind of stuff, you know, you just don't think about it much. But after the experience that I had, you know, you go back and kind of scan through, you know, what went on, and things, you know, perception changes about what was going on at that moment. So we went on the other side of the pool, and she was very charismatic. She was a therapist, and she happened to work for the county that we live in, you know, Orange County, Southern California here. She works at a mental health center of our county. And I was very attracted to that. You know, she was a psychologist, a family therapist, very spiritual. She had this spiritual side, which is rare, I think, these days. But anyway, a few nights later, we went out, and the first night, nothing really happened. You know, I found her, you know, intriguing. I enjoyed talking to her. But we ended it on that note, you know, but I didn't call her back. Within a week later, she called me, and she wanted to come over. So she came over that night. We were downstairs in my house, and she was so adamant. She was it's almost like she wanted me to go upstairs. to the bedroom after just about 10 minutes. So usually, you know, that doesn't happen, especially if the girl is classy, right? So we were up, you know, up in my bedroom within 10 minutes, and this has never happened to me. I mean, I love having fun with girls. I've dated a lot of girls. She was naked on my bed. For some reason, I just couldn't get myself to hook up with her. And it's almost like some boundary or some distance that I felt so weird, you know, and I was kind of surprised at myself, but she was a therapist, she was cool about it, but I kind of knew her because she was kind of keep asking me to you know, I'm here, I'm a willing body here, what's going on here? So, you know, I just told her, you know what, I just can't do it, I don't know what's wrong. The next thing I know, the energy field of the room got so thick, and my consciousness, in a way, got pulled into this, she called it, later on when I talked to her, she called it matrix. Matrix of energy is almost like I didn't have control over my own mind anymore, and I was in this state of trance. And when I kind of cut away from it and pulled back into my own consciousness, I was looking at this woman that looked different than this girl. Like, she was this woman that was a lot more attractive and better looking and so on. And her head was right on my chest, her with beautiful eyes. Even the color of her eyes changed, and the eyelashes, it was so beautiful. And I just kind of, you know, departed from this experience and kind of looked at it again. I wasn't sure exactly what I was looking at. And then the next thing I knew, she put her hand on the first half of her face like so, and then the lower half of her face kind of morphed. And she slowly moved her hands like this and looked at me in a sinister way and gave me a smile. I mean, her face became so beautiful, and I was so mesmerized at that moment. Second time when this happened, I asked her to do it again. And I told her, I'm like, again, do it again. And she kind of looked at me and smiled. And the next thing I know, I got pulled into this matrix again, and she was playing with her hands, some kind of like, I don't know, witchy kind of stuff, you know, she was doing with her hand. I was in a state of trance. And while all this was happening, the energy field was so thick, like it was almost like I was in a pool with her. And I at this moment, I kind of got angry because I felt like I was being toyed with, you know, in a way. And then the next thing I know, when I felt anger and hatred for this experience, in a way, I felt kind of angry toward this, I felt this surge of energy go to the pit of my stomach, and it was just so nauseating. You know, and while all this is happening, you know, the temperature of the room dropped. It was summertime, and I started freezing. You know, I had no shirt on, you know, but I was just, you know, it was summertime, you know, and I was just started shaking so much, and she was able to pick up thought at that moment, and I was kind of angry. I looked in the mirror just to check myself, and I looked normal, you know. I even played with my hair. I'm like, all right, man, you know, everything's normal, but I wasn't sure what I was experiencing. And then at this point, she asked me that, you're not going to hurt me, are you? In a masculine kind of way. You didn't sound like a woman. And I looked at her, I'm like, man, what the hell was that, you know? And she said that, you want me to leave, don't you? I'm like, I think so, man. I think it's better if you leave right now, because I wasn't sure about what I experienced. So anyway, she was leaving, but not only she could pick up thoughts, but she could pick up feelings, and it was just, she was just so in tune with me. I mean, in a way, like we were just one. And when she was leaving, and I never did that to anyone, you know, if I have a guest over, you will never ask them to leave, you know, until they want to leave, you know. And I think she felt that I kind of felt sad about it. She turned around, looked at me, you know, with a smile that, you know, I can't really describe. You just have to see it, but it didn't feel right. And she got into her car and left. And I wasn't sure what I was experiencing, but when I saw her face change 2 times, but also, just like if you guys ever watch on YouTube, you watch videos where one of the reporters, for example, or someone on camera shapeshifts. Not only she shapeshifted, but she morphed into a more beautiful, more attractive woman. So I wasn't sure that if she was able to tap into my mind, make me think I'm looking at someone more beautiful, or she actually morphed. But that was just 2 times, and the 3rd time on the bed, she was going back and forth between shapes. Exactly, you know, what you see on YouTube, a lot of them are fake, but that's exactly what I saw. And remember, at that moment, I had no reference point. I didn't know this kind of stuff existed. Shape-shifting. If I talked to myself 2.5 years ago before this experience, I would think I was a lunatic, you know. So I mean, I didn't know anything about the occult. I wasn't into it, you know. I knew a little bit about energy because I did yoga and I taught martial arts all my life. I knew how to manipulate someone's energy, demoralize someone, and instill fear in them during a fight, and energy attack them. But I never, you know, studied things, you know, to this extent, you know. So when I went back inside the house and I'm thinking about what I just experienced, I was sitting on the couch, I don't know how long, maybe 5 to 10 minutes after she left, just this surge of energy, most powerful energy someone can experience, like went through my body. My back came off the couch, my arm went to the side, and I was like this for God knows how many minutes or seconds, but maybe close to a minute, but I kind of lost track of time. And when this was happening, I hear this voice that, let me come into your heart. Let me come into your heart. But I didn't allow it. And my body just morphed back into the couch again, and I was like a rag doll, you know. And after, I don't know, a few more seconds or maybe a minute, my body just, the energy went back. It was a state of ecstasy, you know, most beautiful energy I've ever experienced. And my arm went to the side like this again, and I felt such, it was beautiful, but very powerful, you know. It was just kind of out of this world, you know, this energy. And, you know, it was gone again, but for the next 2 days, you know, it was a weekend, I wasn't able to do much. I just had this energy moving in my body, and I was kind of lightheaded, and this is where this second voice, I feel like my mind got split in half, or this voice started. And I know not too many people will talk about this kind of stuff, but they're kind of embarrassed to talk about it because of the way society judges them, but or they'll label you mentally ill and so on. But this wasn't just any kind of voice, you know. It was intelligent, it was organized, it was demeaning, you know. At times it was directing me to do certain things. It was disrespectful most of the time, and it was just you know, the most mesmerizing experience a man could have. And I've had this voice, this companion ever since that night. So, you know.
Yeah, definitely interesting story. Now, we spoke before. Now this has affected your life. How has it affected your life since this incident occurred?
Well, one of the reasons I think she wanted to have sex with me that night, this is my understanding after the fact, that she was a portal for these beings that do this kind of stuff to us. They found out about me because of my best friend, my old best friend, the guy that got me on the other side of the pool, because they were friends together. He was hooked in because he was telepathic, and they were communicating telepathically on the other side of the pool. I think he was a host himself. He's a doctor, so it's probably you know, people has been, all the leaders and people who are anyone in our society and on this planet, I know now that they are all reptilian hosts, or the hosts of these entities. This voice that doesn't like to be called reptilian but draconian instead. Mm-hmm. And they found out about me through them. I feel like when I look back that it was a setup for me to get into this. She was a portal for this kind of energy, and the reason she wanted to have sex with me so bad that night was at the moment of orgasm, they wanted to raise my Kundalini energy, and that energy that I felt on the couch was Kundalini energy. Afterward, that, you know, when I started researching things, when I found out that we all have this serpent energy at the base of our spine, and when you, it's the beginning of your enlightenment, but I feel like it's a trap because it will open you up to the position. I've studied a lot about Kundalini energy, but people never talk about the position that takes place once this Kundalini energy goes in your body. And so we don't know much about it in the West, but in India everybody knows about Kundalini energy. You know, so if you research it, and remember, the value of a cup is the empty space inside of it. Okay, and I know I'm talking about certain things that people are not familiar with. All I'm asking you guys, I don't want you to believe me. I'm not here to you know, I'm not a victim. I'm not a victim. It's the reason I went through all this. You know, I'm here to inform you about what is happening on the planet, and all my research the last 2 years after my experience. but also for you to start researching things on your own. Don't ever make up your mind, research things. So if you hear Kundalini energy, for example, and this concept is new for you, why don't you Google it and research it? You know, God give us intelligence to make ourselves a better human being, to resolve our inner issues, and to reach out for Him, and to become a better person in this lifetime. So this is where you have to, you know, use your own faculties to research the stuff and learn more about it. You know, don't just judge, you know, with only part of the fact, or just because you hear something. I want you guys to go research it and try to learn about this kind of stuff yourself. So anytime you hear a word that you don't understand, you know, you have to research it on your own. You know, learn more about it.
Yeah, definitely. And as my group deals with the paranormal,
Sure.
there's a big question that comes up because there seems to be a mixture of either extraterrestrial or like entity, spiritual type energy. Your research and your experience, what do you think that these shape-shifting reptilians are? Are they a mixture? Are they both?
Sure. You know, I have. I contacted and I had experience with some of the greatest teacher that I could find last 2 years, and I had a yoga master that I used to always you know, I used to meet up with every Friday, you know, just growing up as a martial artist. So I was always on this metaphysical aspect of our experience. I knew some things about it, but you know, some of the greatest teachers that I've met told me that about 300,000 years ago, you know, these entities that and every culture have a different name for it. In Islam we call them jinns, Christianity we call them demons or fallen angels. The Gnostics from Nag Hammadi library, you know, they talked a lot about it, and they call them archons. But basically they're cosmic accident, right, cosmically. And they're dark beings that have imprisoned our planet for about 300,000 years now, and they're in a fourth dimensional beings, and the reason they need human bodies and the reason they possess human beings is because they need a biological, physical vehicle to be able to interact in our physical realm, because they don't have a physical body like we do. So, for example, the lodges of Freemasonry are Skull and Bones. Basically, all they're the front for these beings, churches for these beings, for people to come there to offer themselves to these beings. And then when they advance through different degrees that they have, and if you're valuable enough for them to possess you, they'll possess you. They interface, they raise a kundalini, and they get control over your whole being. And this is the concept of selling your soul, right? You get certain benefit from them, but at the same time, you just become a biological robot for these beings, because they're a lot more advanced than we are, and they do need certain human beings to be able to do what you know has been done in this planet. Mm-hmm. So you know, a lot of New Ages call them aliens, right? You know, in Islam we call them jinns and so on. So it doesn't matter. Basically, ultimately, what they are is fourth dimensional beings that we're not able to see, because they're outside of our perception, the frequency that we can see as solid. So they're invisible to us, and that's why it's so hard for people to believe this kind of stuff, you know.
Definitely. And I think a good point for people to start researching is, do you know any particular names, books, publications that might give people an kind of eye-opening information about this kind of stuff?
Sure. I mean, there's a lot of great teachers out there, you know, but everybody knows about David Icke, you know. I think he's one of my heroes. When I was researching, you know, myself, it was so hard, because this stuff, you know, for thousands of years been hidden from the masses. So when I was going through this, you know, when I started researching things, I researched the symptoms that I was going through. I felt this extreme heat on my forehead, and all kind of sensations all throughout my body. At the root chakra, your chakras are your main energy fields. At my root chakra, I felt so much sensations, and I just started Googling, you know, intense heat in your forehead, and with yoga and so on. And ultimately, it got me to learn about the reptilians. And David Icke is one of the greatest teachers. Jordan Maxwell is one of the greatest teachers. He's a legend. But one of the books that really touched me was a book written by Suzanne Reed called Body Snatchers. Body Snatchers. So I think it's the perfect way of explaining these entities, because physical bodies, and when they interface you, your chakra system basically are traps, because that's how they're able to manipulate your energy field, and they connect you through the root chakra, and they raise your kundalini energy, and from a third dimensional being you become a fourth dimensional being. Your body becomes so light. There has been time in meditation where I felt so light. I felt like I was just meshed with the energy field around me. You know.
Yeah.
So,
Very good. Yeah. Now I know we talked a little about celebrities and the potential for people in power and celebrities to have these kinds of attachments like you have with these shape-shifting things. Do you have any information on that? I know you mentioned some stuff about Michael Jackson. And maybe some other people.
You know, they have. When I was going through this experience at the beginning, and I was talking to a friend of mine, and I told him that, you know, these beings have, you know, I mean, even that shape-shifting girl, she had the ability to telepathically connect you, affect you, pick up your thoughts, affect you physically. She sent this awful, nauseating energy to my stomach, you know, when she was on my bed. I mean, I never knew this kind of power exists, you know. I mean, when I'm alone in the room, you know, I feel a presence in the room, you know. And he said, well, if this kind of powers exist, you know, they will have every person in charge in their pocket, you know. I mean, they could affect the president. So I didn't have an answer for that, because I was just explaining about what I was going through. So when I researched, I realized that every president, I mean, not only they're Freemasons, right, but they're all hosted. You know, everyone that you know, most of your favorite celebrities, you know, are hosted. You know, the sign that they show, the sign, the hands gestures of this, and the one eye, the eye of Horus, the eye of the Watchers, is just showing the allegiance to these beings, and they were all hosted beings. And I feel like, because I am going through that myself, if you don't cooperate with them and you respect your humanity and you respect humanity, you don't like to be manipulated or influenced by anything outside of yourself. If you're not in line with them, you know, you're being held against your will. It's one thing when you join a secret society, when you know about this kind of entities, you offer your soul to them, and then you get put in a position of power once you get hosted by them, and you're a vehicle for these beings, right? Because they're in charge of everything. But it's another thing when they're being, when they impose themselves on you, and you're being held against your will. Because I feel like, you know, a lot of our actors, our favorite entertainers, our favorite singers, you know, they're just young, beautiful people with dreams, and they go to Hollywood, and you know, the Illuminatis. I don't like to call them that, because I think it's a nice name for them, you know, because you know, they don't bring any light. You know, the only light they bring is the light of a train at the end of a tunnel, right? But they're being held against the will, you know. And if you work so hard to get to that level in entertainment, you have to be willing to lose everything if you want to fight them. And eventually, and I think just like Michael Jackson, you know, and they take you out. When you get fed up with them, they take you out. Whenever you hear they, because people don't have the courage to talk against them, they killed him, or they doing this to me, they're hurting me. They represent these dark entities, and they're human minions, you know, they're human vehicles, what we call Illuminatis, okay? So one of the reasons I know, you know, and I'm referring to some entertainers, because we can all research them, and they're in public eyes, and it's easy to get access to their lives, right? When you hear that Michael Jackson used to put himself in anesthesia to be able to sleep at night, one of the things they do to program your mind is that they during your sleep, they put you in a dream escape scenario. Okay, so if you're a good person, you'll see yourself, you know, stealing things. You know, I have experienced this, stealing things, and don't worry about it. Go on, no one cares. You can get away with it. You can do anything you want in your dream. You're watching yourself dream that. If you're a heterosexual man and you respect your honor, you're an honorable man, right? You see yourself, you know, they promote, you know, unholy behavior or things that is against who you are as a person, because they want to try to deviate you from who you are as a man. And the better man you are, the more pressure to put on you. For example, I was talking to a reptilian host, and he was telling me that, you know, that he would find himself in a dream escape scenario and making love to a beautiful woman, and then at the last moment when he's about to have an orgasm, that beautiful woman turns into his daughter, you know. And they do this over and over and over again, and that's how they're able to create pedophiles out of normal people. You know, if you see a father at a church, you know, molesting young boys, you know, all the people in charge, all of our leaders are just hosted beings by these archons or demons or entities. So and initially he was just a good man, a good person like everyone else, sacrificed his life for God, but through their conditioning and mind programming, they will turn you into a pedophile, and they have that capability, and they will be able to do that. And if you have a weak soul quality, you know, it's easy for them to really change you to the most demonic, you know, human being. So, you know, when people, you know, if you see on YouTube, for example, you see a video that says, you know, demonic shapeshifter, you know, and he's just a reporter on TV, he didn't give himself, he's not a shapeshifter. The most horrendous aspect of what I've experienced is that they can turn anyone into a shapeshifter, okay? And they have genetically modified a human being to dumb us down and to keep us weak, but at the same time to be able to interface with us. Okay, so you become a hardware for them, and they're able to manipulate us in a very easily and possess your whole body. And that's one of the ways they have modified who we are as human beings. So.
Yeah, very interesting. Now I'm going to ask you a question, because at the end there, when you were talking about reptilians, I actually got a couple of hits on my K2 meter. You're not wearing a wristwatch or anything on that side, are you? Okay, I just want to make sure, because sometimes those kind of energies...
I do have an attachment.
Yeah.
You can see it, you know, if you see a picture of a human being, and people had a drawing of this, and then you have a dark entity behind them who's attached to his root chakras.
Now that we've talked about this, got some of the information out, if you don't mind, I'd like to see if we can maybe call upon this attachment and see if we can get any maybe scientific reaction with some of our equipment here, if that's okay with you, of course, if you don't mind.
Sure, but I think this gets to the like stuff like exorcism, so it's not. The funny thing about this, remember, it's not like the movie. It's not like a demon that we are all accustomed to.
Yes.
You know, my head's not gonna turn around. It's a lot more organized, right? Remember, this whole planet is controlled by them, right? Yeah. They have a strategy. They know the inner working of a human mind. They can possess you, control your mind, program you to something totally different than who you were initially. So it's not gonna be, it's not out of control demonic entity like that where things gonna be flying across the room. Now I say this, but I did have poltergeist experiences at the beginning. You know, when I was alone initially through this experience, I always felt a presence in the room, and so just more symbolically, I started carrying a samurai sword. I'm a martial artist. You know, I had martial arts schools. Samurai sword in my house, and most of the attacks and most of the powerful energies that I experienced was always 3 to 4 a.m. And one night I had my samurai sword next to me on the bed. And I kind of read about it that if someone's astral flying in your room, because there still is an energy, light energy body, if you strike at it, you know, that you could, you know, protect yourself somewhat. And even, you know, that has happened where when people got hurt astral flying, their body, their physical body got bruised when they came back into their body. So I thought maybe one way I could, you know, push this thing away from me and keep it out of my house was by doing that. I was naive at that time, but 3:30 a.m., you know, my sword flew about, you know, when I was sleeping, flew about 20 feet so hard, and it hit the blinds with the most traumatic sound you could experience, you know, and that was the end of me carrying a samurai sword, you know, against it. But it was almost like telling me a sign, hey, you know, you're dealing with something a lot more powerful than you think. And also had a prayer, a huge frame on the wall, a prayer fall down, you know, around the same time at night. One night is almost like showing me a sign, you know. So yeah, definitely. Yeah, so if you don't mind, I mean, we have our equipment, have everything set up. We'll just try to communicate if there's anything here close by that wants to try and give us some sort of sign.
And start. If there's anything here, anything attached to this man sitting in front of me, could you please give us some sort of sign that you're here with us? Make our meters light up, show yourself on camera, say something, we can hear you. I'm pretty sure you think you're a very powerful being and you can do a lot. So go ahead. You have an audience right now that's trying to figure out if you're here and what you can do. So if you're here, please give us some sort of sign. Our main goal is to try and help him out and discover what's going on. Hopefully even stop it. So if there's something here, could you please give us some sort of sign? Is that what you? Could you make my meter light up one more time? Like I said, we're trying to help him out.
Yeah, it's not, you know, I don't think you can call up this kind of demons.
Maybe not, we'll give it a shot. Or you think it's better if we try and get rid of you? Maybe we can detach you and you can leave this man alone. It boils down to if you're attached, you're not supposed to be, and he doesn't want you. So if you could please leave this man alone, let him be. If you understand me, could you give me some sort of sign? Make my meter light up, say something, show yourself. So, did you have any personal experiences tonight you'd like to let us know about?
Yeah, when we were setting up, we had one of the little meter things sitting here on one of the chairs. One of these things sitting on the chair, and it was kind of peeking out a couple of times. I pulled my phone out, my keys out as well, to see if my phone or the keys, because my keys has a chip in it, to see if it made it do anything, and it didn't. So I thought that was kind of interesting to see it actually firsthand, see it do something. Other than that, with the interview, nothing. I really didn't see nothing. I saw some stuff over on the camera, but I'm probably like dust or something. I guess they'll review that and see what it really was.
Cool. So what do you think in general about our investigation, the interview, and everything that went on tonight?
I thought it was interesting. I've never heard of anything like that. So I thought it was interesting to see if maybe something like that does exist or is true, or, you know, I've heard of, well, I guess I have heard of, because I've heard of different singers having demons or something overtake them to kind of help them with their performance. But other than that, I've never heard of what he was talking about.
Okay, cool. Thanks. Well, thanks for being here tonight. We appreciate you coming out, and hope you enjoyed the experience.
It was fun. Thank you for having me.
Hey guys, so we had the interview with this guy that had says he has an attachment of a reptilian, basically a shapeshifter and all that. So my experiences with this investigation / interview, because it's basically an interview, I got a couple hits with the 2K meter, and at the same time there was a point where I got a spike at the same time that John Pierre did. So I don't know, maybe it was something out there or that was happening at the same time, or that was connected to it. But I did get a couple of kind of hits on my meter when I was behind the scenes. Hopefully that we were able to catch some of it. If not, but we do have experiences of catching something. So hopefully you guys like the episode, and we'll keep watching. Thanks.
Alright, so I'm back here at the location where we shot our first episode, guys, and just want to go over my final thoughts on what happened that evening when we were doing our investigation. It was a challenging investigation because it was our first ever interview / investigation, so it was something new, and we kind of learned as we went along. The most interesting things that happened were we got some K2 hits that we couldn't explain, which is our EMF meters. So it was interesting, and actually at one point me and Eddie, my tech guy, got K2 hits at the exact same moment. It tended to be more when he got deeper into the reptilian conspiracy that our K2s went off, because we had a full-on, about 45-minute, almost an hour interview with this guy. So it was pretty interesting. One of the major claims he made was that actually cameras malfunction while he's talking about this. And we had that happen. We had a few audio and video glitches during that interview. Another thing that was strange was I set up this particular camera I'm recording with right now, and I had my shot set up. So the shot you're seeing is not the shot I actually set up for the interview. We found later that the camera was zoomed in and moved a little bit off center. So that was something interesting. Another big thing that happened is right before we started the interview, our client hadn't shown up yet. My tech guy Eddie and photographer Danielle went out to get pizza and drinks for the location, so we had enough food and drinks as it was going to be a while. They ended up getting rear-ended in a car accident, and our client was getting very apprehensive about doing this interview. So that was something really strange. We might be able to connect it to us trying to get this information out, if it does exist. In the end, I don't think we had enough scientific evidence to really add up data and say what this was, but we're happy we helped our client out and got this story out, and we hope you guys enjoyed it, and we look forward to doing more for you, so we'll see you next time.
We know the truth is out there, and this group is out there to prove that the truth is out there. No. No.